Hello, hello. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is December 10th, 2025. We are live streaming on Rumble, on YouTube, on Locals. Share, subscribe, tap the notification bell, post-game show, rubinreport.locals.com, and from December 8th to December 12th, and we're right in the middle of that right now, you can get 10% off Copal. This is it. That's it for the rest of the year. Actually, these bottles that we are releasing right now, so we sold out so quickly, like 3 times right now. But these bottles that we are releasing right now basically became my personal stash. It's about 2,000 bottles left. I did not need 2,000 bottles of tequila. It seemed a little excessive, although the big Rubin Report holiday party is this Saturday night. But there was a tiny issue with the label that basically only I would know. And we were just going to keep them here. That seemed a little insane. So we are releasing it with a discount so that you guys can get it before the holidays. And I just love seeing the compliments and people making all kind of fun cocktails and drinks and all that good stuff. So you can go to drinkcopal.com for that. And let's dive into the show. It's just kind of a fun one. Like there's a little bit of everything. And we were doing the rundown this morning and I was like, I think we're going to be at a 9.5 today because there's just enough heavy stuff, serious stuff, silly stuff. Let's play. Let's do it, guys. Donald Trump. Have you heard of this guy? He is the 45th and 47th president of the United States. And one of the things people have been saying about him in mainstream media over the last couple of days, and it's a coordinated nonsense, is that he's lost his step and he's tired and all of this stuff. And it's like, no, this guy has done more world traveling, more press conferences, more on-the-fly Q&As than probably any president in history. What he has not done much of lately is the big Trump rallies. Well, he rectified that in Pennsylvania yesterday, and most of the meat, though, was about a woman who I don't like very much, who married her brother to come to America. And Donald Trump doesn't like her either. Enjoy.
I love this Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little turban. I love her. She comes in, there's nothing but bitch. She's always complaining. She comes from a country where, it's considered about the worst country in the world, right? They have no military, they have no nothing, they have no parliament. They don't know what the hell the word parliament means. They have nothing, they have no police. They police themselves, they kill each other all the time. I love it. She comes to our country and she's always complaining about the Constitution allows me to do this. We ought to get her the hell out. She married her brother in order to get in, right? She married her brother.
All right, so look, there's a bunch there. Now, first off, I get it, and it is not worth hitting too hard. The stuff he's making fun of the turban. Okay, there's a certain set of people that aren't going to like that anymore, and is that exactly what we want? No, but as I always say with Trump, can you tell the guy who did the thing that everyone said couldn't be done? Can you tell him how to behave at this point? You can't. So just put that aside. It really doesn't bother me at this point, but I can get why someone would be like, we don't need the president to do that. The more interesting part is that he is explaining something that is true, which is that Somalia basically is a third world country without a functioning government, with a lot of backwards views and gang fights and all of these things. And not all, many of these people have now come to America and imported those ideas. The whole idea of America is that you leave the bad stuff where you came from. That's the stuff you're fleeing. And you come to America because we are the land of the free, where we offer individual rights and the pursuit of happiness. And that doesn't seem to be something that Ilhan Omar is doing, although she's quite happy with her bank account. We'll get to that in just a second. It's absolutely insane. I had to have the guys double check the numbers like 5 times this morning. But I do want to point out that, of course, and I know it goes without saying, it's not all Somalis. Obviously, you know who I spoke to yesterday, who is an incredible, wonderful person who we'll have back on the show in January, is Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Ayaan Hirsi Ali from Somalia underwent female genital mutilation, was forced into an arranged marriage, ended up fleeing, finally made it to Holland, where she became member of parliament. Then her friend Theo Van Gogh was killed in the middle of the street, and they taped a note that said, Ayaan, you are next, because they dared talk about radical Islam. Well, now she's an American. She's married to the great historian Niall Ferguson, who I've had on the show as well. And she's a wonderful fighter for Western values. So the issue here is not Somalia per se, or the thing on Ilhan's head or anything else. It's her behavior and the people who support her behavior. Here's Trump on a bit more about what he's going to do while we try to figure out who is in our country, how they got here, and what they are up to.
I've also announced a permanent pause on third world migration, including from hellholes like Afghanistan, Haiti, Somalia, and many other countries. We had a meeting, and I said, why is it we only take people from hole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let's have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime. The only thing they're good at is going after ships.
Somalia! Look, he is making a point. You know, the interesting thing is he mentioned several Nordic countries there. People don't have to flee those countries, at least yet. Sweden has a massive problem now with radical Islam and no-go zones and all that. And Denmark has a slight version of it, and some of the others do. So we may eventually start taking in some refugees from those countries. But again, it's the same thing that I always say. America is our house. It is our home. And there is a reason you have a door on your home. There's a reason you have a lock, and you might have a fence outside. You also might have a camera system and all these things, as I guarantee you all of these Democrat politicians have at their own homes when they let everybody flood into the country. But I fully believe Trump when he says that I was in a meeting and I was like, why are we taking all these people from all of these countries? Like you can hear him saying it, right? Like you can actually hear him saying it in a meeting, and it would be real and true. And again, whether they're coming from Somalia or Denmark or South Africa or Belarus, is that even a country anymore? Like whether they're coming from any of those places, we have every right as a country to define what our borders are and who can come in. Now I want to jump over to CNN. They had the former lieutenant governor of New York on, Betsy McCaughey. She is a Republican. And here she is explaining some of the deep doo-doo that Miss Omar finds herself in.
On the other hand, and I am no fan of Ilhan Omar, and she is in a lot of deep doo-doo now because she is very tangled in this billion-dollar Somali Medicaid fraud scandal in Minneapolis, and she may be touched by this. And of course,
I haven't seen any evidence of her
well,
being connected to it, except for her being Somali.
Let me tell you why the check and balance. Let me tell you why
Abby, there is evidence.
Abby, you are terrible. You are terrible. I say it all the time, but every time I think you're just awful and terrible and horrible, you somehow figure out a way to grab a shovel and dig even deeper. There is a tremendous amount of evidence that Ilhan Omar was involved in this. There is enough evidence now that Tim Walz was involved in it, and the Attorney General, the guy who's in charge of the law of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. But let's go to some of the information and some of the ways that they were laundering this money and then pushing it back to Somalia. This from the New York Post. Ilhan Omar held parties at one of the key restaurants named in the fraud, knew one of its now convicted owners, and one of her own staffers has also been convicted, both for stealing millions. They were convicted already. Omar even introduced the bill that led to $250 million in fraud, yet she claims to have been completely unaware of it. Now listen to this. This is the number that I had the guys check 5 times, and I would recommend any of you, if you know how to open a second tab, don't leave the program right now, but if you have I don't know how you do it, but there's a second tab you can open on your little browser there and check this for yourself. Ilhan Omar filed her net pre-coming to Congress wealth was $65,000. Let me just clean that up. When she came into Congress, she was worth $65,000, according to her own filings. Now listen to this from the New York Post. Representative Ilhan Omar reported a net worth of up to $30 million in her latest financial disclosure, a document filed just months after the Congresswoman dismissed claims she was a millionaire as ridiculous and categorically false. How many years has she been in Congress? 5 years, something like that? About 5 years? $65,000 to $30 million. Can you get me the Marjorie Taylor Greene numbers? Because that was also something insane. We also know all about Nancy Pelosi. This is criminal in the most obvious way. Also, she married her brother. Somebody do something. Is anyone paying attention here? MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she went from being worth $700,000 when she got to Congress to worth $22 million today. I I guess I don't have to wonder why she's retiring in a couple weeks. If I had 22 million bucks in the bank, I would retire too. Just kidding, guys. I'll work forever. You can work me into the ground like an old horse. Let's jump over to some functional people. Stephen Miller, White House spokesman, who's out there basically explaining Trump's very clear policies, which is that we have to have a country of people who want to be here for all of the right reasons. That's not what we have right now. He explains a bit about that.
We need to have in this country exactly what President Trump called for, which is that we need a moratorium on immigration from third world countries until we can heal ourselves as a nation, solve our education issues, solve our healthcare issues, our public safety issues, our assimilation issues, our cultural issues. What they don't teach you in school is that from 1920 to 1970, there was negative migration. There was a half century of negative migration. The foreign-born population declined by 40% for half a century. During that same time period, Will, the U.S. population doubled from natural childbirth. That was the cauldron in which a unified shared national identity was formed. They went through a depression together. They went through world wars together. They landed on the moon together. This great period in American history happened at a time when there was negative migration.
That's super interesting. Now, I didn't know the fact that it was negative migration during those years, but even putting that aside for a second, all the things that he's referencing, all those events that we did together as a country, and nobody cared if the guy working at NASA was black or Asian or white or a Jew or a Christian or an atheist or anything else while they were getting us to the moon. That is what America is all about. And the issue now is we are importing people who are bringing ancient hatreds back, who fundamentally want to change our country. I mean, that's what Ilhan Omar is constantly saying. My guys are telling me I should note that it is possible that some of Ilhan's 30 mil that she's got right now, well, she's on her third husband because she married the first guy, then the brother and the third husband, and the third husband apparently is a VC guy, a venture capital guy, so maybe he's got some cash. Again, marrying the brother, more from Stephen Miller.
Yes, and even worse than that, you end up with what our founding fathers feared the most, which is that you have foreign immigrants who become advocates, not for this country, but the country that they left. So you see, replete throughout Somali politics in Minnesota is this constant concern about how to reorient U.S. politics around Somalia.
Yeah, and that's completely right. We've shown you many videos of that, whether it's Ilhan Omar or several of the people who are running for mayor, or even I didn't even mean to say that, even Jacob Fry himself, the mayor over there, who's not Somali, although pretends he's LARPing Somali, that they are talking about how they can send funds over there, change American policy to be more for Somalia, all of those things. By the way, every American has every right to do whatever they want with their money, but you're not allowed to be involved in a giant money laundering scheme to send it to some other country. And then we need only look at what has happened to other countries, right? Because we're just a little bit behind most of Europe as it pertains to all this. And thank God we've got guns too. So we have some other protections. We also have an ocean between us and most of, and say the Middle East and Africa and whatever. But we still have a major problem on our hand. But we should only look to our friends in the UK to figure out how bad this could all get. Remember yesterday we covered, and I think we've covered it a couple of times, the story of two Afghans in London who raped a 15-year-old girl. Well, here's Nigel Farage, who's basically one of the last people, at least at the political level in the UK, who is willing to fight this invasion that they're dealing with. Here he is on that.
And I'm sorry, but if you as a country allow young men who come from countries in which women aren't even classed as second-class citizens, and you put them up in four-star hotels, allow them to work illegally, their attitude towards women is completely different to ours. So the social effects of this are appalling as well.
Yeah, that's right. And remember that ridiculous video that we showed you yesterday that we started the show with when Young Turks host Anna Kasparian was on with Bill Maher at Club Random. And basically she was like, well, we blame the cultural differences on the fact that America's done some bad things over there. Putting aside that that's just nonsense, right? Their attitudes towards women and minorities and gays and non-Muslims and all of those things have nothing to do with American intervention and everything else, even if we have made some mistakes there. That doesn't mean you fall on the sword and then import people into your own country who will say, I don't know, rape 15-year-old girls. By the way, the lawyer of the two Afghans who raped this 15-year-old girl, he's blaming their behavior. I mean, part of the legal argument that he's making is he's blaming their behavior on cultural differences. That is part of the legal argument they are making. My friend, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but was prescient in most things, Charlie Kirk, on July 14th, 2025, tweeted, "Immigration without assimilation is invasion." And of course, that is absolutely right. They're probably, in the history of humanity, in the history of planet Earth, has never been a more welcoming country for more people from all sorts of places, right? That the very nature of the design of the country was to offer freedom to people. That is what we are founded upon. It is the most special and precious thing. We now have imported people, legally and illegally, who seemingly hate us. And to Charlie's point, if you come here and you're not interested in assimilation, then you're going to destroy the place. That is the invasion, right? That's the zombie invasion, the alien invasion, and everything. Think about it. They call them illegal aliens, but just think about alien movies. Aliens come here usually not to be like, can I be part of human society and enjoy it? No, they come here to kill us. I've seen a lot of alien movies. It's unless there's a very boring alien movie out there where like, we really come in peace, no shit. But they say they come in peace, and then CB Distillery guys, and then we'll talk about Chuck Schumer, who's having some problems, and I hope wearing a diaper. The holidays are hectic, family drama, last-minute shopping, and late nights that can make the season feel like an endurance test. That's why I'm sharing my ultimate holiday survival guide, CBD from CB Distillery. They've got everything you need for a merry, stress-free holiday. Slip CBD for better sleep into mom's stocking. Treat your fitness friends to a pain relief stick for post-workout aches. And don't forget to grab a little holiday calm for yourself. Every CB Distillery product is made with premium clean ingredients, no fillers, nothing artificial. With over 2 million customers and a 100% money-back guarantee, it's a gift you can feel great about giving. This year, give yourself and everyone on your list the gift of better sleep, less stress, and real relief with CBD from CB Distillery. Just visit cbdistillery.com and enter code RUMBLE for 25% off. That's cbdistillery.com, code RUMBLE. From Somalia to Venezuela, as you know, the big story of the last week and a half is that Donald Trump is blowing up boats in the Caribbean who are bringing fentanyl and other drugs to our shores. As I've talked about, there are moral issues here, there are legal issues, there's philosophical issues, all of those things. My basic bumper sticker attitude on this is I don't care that much. Again, you can call me a dick. That Dave Rubin, what a dick. I just don't care that much about drug traffickers, narco-terrorists who are bringing drugs on boats to our shores. I just don't. You know what I mean? Like, I put a lot of care out there in the world. I try to do right by people. I just don't care about those guys that much. Anyway, it's an 80-20 issue for Trump because I think most people agree with me whether they want to publicly say it or not. But of course, Democrats are really into narco drug traffickers. And the narco drug traffickers they really love are the ones who, after the boat has been blown up and the fentanyl's flying all over the place, if there's a guy on a piece of wood, like, but I was just trying to bring fentanyl into the country, they love that guy. So Chuck Schumer had a meeting. He said, I'm going to sit down with Pete Hegseth and talk about those drug traffickers. And here he is before the meeting.
I plan to confront Secretary Hegseth on exactly what the hell is going on in the Caribbean. I plan to demand Secretary Hegseth give the total, unedited videos of what happened in the September 2nd boat strikes. Trump originally agreed to do this, but now they're afraid. What's Hegseth hiding? And second, I will demand of Rubio and Hegseth what the hell is going on in the Caribbean and in Venezuela. What are their plans? How far do they plan to go?
Okay, so that was Chuck. He was going to confront him, and he's very angry about this. And again, what he's angry about is that we are blowing up boats with drugs coming to America. Well, he had the meeting with Pete, and apparently it didn't go very well.
Okay, it was a very unsatisfying briefing. I asked Secretary Hegseth, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, would he let every member of Congress see the unedited videos of the September 2nd strike? His answer, we have to study it. Well, in my view, they've studied it long enough. and Congress ought to be able to see it. I told him that every member of Congress, so many members of Congress, Democrat and Republican, had a right to see it, wanted to see it, and should see it. In terms of Venezuela, I asked them what their strategy is and what they were doing. Again, did not get satisfying answers at all.
You know, we just moved something around here. That's why I was a little caught off guard there. You know, it's so interesting because you really want to see that video. And by the way, I can make some argument. I think in that we want the government to be as transparent as possible and all that stuff. You can make that argument. And is it possible that when they release, at some point they're going to release the video, and when you see some guy, again, on the piece of wood trying to figure out where to go, but he was a drug trafficker and then he gets blown up, is it possible that that's going to pull on some heartstrings and all that? That's all fine. Again, I don't know. I just don't care that much. I just don't. I'm sorry. But you know what you never want to seem to see pictures of or videos of, Chuck? How about this? How about these people? These are Americans on American streets. And look at them. Those are lives that are destroyed. Those are somebody's brother and daughter and sister and cousin and uncle and maybe mother or father. And you guys do jack shit about that. And actually, it's worse than that. It's not that you do jack shit about it. You guys actively created the conditions to let the drugs in the first place. Then you create the conditions where we don't police properly in big cities, where it is allowed for these people to congregate and do drugs and nobody gets arrested and then you don't even create the economic conditions that would allow people to flourish. So more and more people end up on drugs. So crocodile tears are just not working for me. Now, interestingly, this is one of those things where a certain portion of the left, which is mostly upset about this because it's Trump, right? That's like the Schumer. If Obama was doing this, they'd be saying, oh my God, he's saving America and everything else. But you guys get that. But this is an interesting thing because now you've got Schumer on the same side here as the hardcore libertarians. Now, I'm going to play a video of Rand Paul. As you know, I've had him on the show many times. I like him a lot, and I like libertarian ideology. Usually, in theory, I love it. And the question is how much of this works in practice. Now, Rand Paul's going to make an argument here around the legality, the pure legality of all of this stuff. Take a look.
The president had said earlier, about a week earlier, that he would have no problem with that second video coming out. Do you believe it should be released, Senator?
Yes, without question. I think if people were to see the images of people clinging to the wreckage, there would not be much sympathy for Secretary Hegseth. To order the killing of people who are shipwrecked is clearly illegal according to military justice, according to our own military laws. And, you know, I have members of my staff who are high-ranking in the military, and they tell me this is done for the protection of our soldiers. If our pilots have to eject from a plane, we show that we don't shoot people. We don't shoot pilots that are descending by parachute. If we blow up a boat and there are survivors, we don't shoot those people. We don't sidle up in a boat and take a 9mm pistol out, put it to their head and shoot them. Nobody would do that. But just because the missiles come from a long distance doesn't make it any more right.
Okay, so first I want to just give Rand credit here. I respect his position that he wants as much transparency as possible. He wants us to follow the law to the letter. I can accept that. Now, again, I don't care that much about these people in this case, and we're so down the rabbit hole of stupidity as it relates to our borders and immigration and deportations and drugs in our country and all these things that, like, I'm just not that sympathetic in the specific case, but I think you can understand. I respect his position on that. So I'll go with you, Rand. Okay, release, unless there's some absolute military reason they can't release the tapes. You could release the tapes. He says, let's see the images of these shipwrecked people. Now, calling them shipwrecked, I think, is a little heavy-handed, Rand. Like, shipwrecked would be like a bunch of guys who were, on a boat and they're partying and they're like drinking. What are they drinking on boats these days? They're having, what's that drink that we had in Australia, Joey? The Hugo Spritz. The Hugo Spritz. You know about the Hugo Spritz? It's a beautiful day. You're having your Hugo Spritz. You're on a boat with your friends. And then you crash into a little island and then you're shipwrecked, right? Like Gilligan's Island. They were shipwrecked. If we bombed Gilligan's Island and killed the skipper and that rich bitch and the other guy, like, that wouldn't have been. That's how they should have ended the show. How did the Harlem Globetrotters end up on Gilligan's Island? Did you ever see that episode? It made no sense. Anyway, if we blew up Gilligan's Island, that would be killing shipwrecked people. I'm a little less sympathetic to the guy coming with fentanyl who's hanging on the... But okay, if you want us to release that, some people might change their opinion. Okay, I think I've analyzed that with the highest ability possible. Let's jump over to CNN, where Scott Jennings rightly points out that Barack Obama was drone strike killing American citizens, and these people didn't care. Go.
Did you ever ask or wonder if Obama was committing war crimes?
Yes.
I mean,
I'm
we
always
believe
about that, and we spoke about that, but I can still critique these.
Do you believe they were?
We had a lot of questions about.
How
far
back in history are we going to go? For the record, okay, for the record, there was bipartisan outrage over President Obama's very liberal use of drone strikes.
Did anybody say Obama committed war crimes?
Hold on a second. Yes,
Who?
Many people did. Many conservatives, many liberals did. So it's just, my only point about that is that, look, I know we have short memories. I know we have short memories.
He's on the board at Netflix. It doesn't seem like anybody's holding it against him.
But this was actually a highly controversial thing.
Yeah.
You were actually, you were there, were you not?
You know, Tim Kaine and I spent 6 years trying to change the AUMF. To reform that so that Congress could have a say, because a lot of us were troubled with what was going on with these basically.
Did you use the phrase war crimes?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, blah, 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 blah. Here's the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island. So think about it. Imagine, this is a shipwrecked group of people. Gilligan, the skipper, they had the actress, Mr. Howell and his wife. And imagine we had just blown that up, and then Gilligan was out there, you know, like hanging on to the side of a banana tree, and then we had shot him. I think most people would be against that, but that's not exactly what happened here. Of course, what they're all referencing in that clip is that Barack Obama used a drone strike to kill an American citizen. He was in Yemen. His name was Anwar al-Awlaki in 2011. And to Scott's point, nobody called him conservatives might have, but nobody on CNN or the Democrats would have said he was accused of war crimes. And if you would like some evidence of that, we asked Grok, how many times was Obama accused of war crimes by CNN, MSNBC, ABC, or CBS News, or elected members of Congress or the Senate, and for his airstrikes and drone strikes? And here's the answer. Mainstream U.S. media, like outlets like CNN, MSNBC, ABC, and CBS, did not directly accuse Obama of war crimes. Their coverage focused on reporting facts, criticism from NGOs, civilian deaths, legal debates, and administration defenses. Terms like war crimes appeared in quotes from external sources, like rights groups or foreign officials, but the outlets themselves avoided editorializing Obama as culpable. I'm shocked and appalled. Mark Kelly, senator from Arizona, who's been in the midst of all of this because a couple weeks ago he was one of the people that put out that ridiculous video encouraging current members of the military to ignore Trump's illegal orders without saying what those illegal orders were. Here he is ramping up the fear, saying that Trump's trying to kill him.
So we were just sending a truthful message, you know, just comply with the law, and then Donald Trump wants to kill me, hang me, and Hegseth, you know, says he's going to prosecute me under the Uniform Code of Military Justice for saying what is in the UCMJ.
Okay, now, giving the devil his due, Donald Trump did tweet that sedition is punishable by death. But does anyone think he's coming to kill Mark Kelly? Now, as to what Hegseth said right there might be some actual legal hot water that Mark Kelly got himself in, especially as a former member of the military. But here's just the quick 10-second thing when Mark Kelly admitted that even though he did that commercial, there were no illegal orders that he knew of.
When you and your colleagues made that video, were there specific, potentially illegal orders that you were thinking about that were the sort of precipitating cause for you guys to get together and do that?
Here's the thing, Rachel. You don't want to wait for your kid to get hit by a car before you tell them to look both ways.
As I've said repeatedly, that's pre-crime. That is pre-crime what he is saying. If you have not seen the movie Minority Report, I've referenced it a few times in the last couple of days, go see it. That is the husband who's about to stab the wife and the guy who's banging her with the scissor, and he gets arrested right before because they have the ability to figure out what pre-crime is. That's what that guy's calling for there. Anyway, the Democrats now, because this isn't a winning issue, because generally speaking, I think most people are where I'm at. you don't care that much about the narco-terrorists hanging on the wood. We can have the legal issue and you can have some moral issues around it and everything else. But to me, the morality part is completely in our favor, because if these people get to our shores, they kill our citizens. That aside for a second, the Democrats now, because I don't think they think it's a winning issue really, they have to run with fear. So here's Massachusetts Democrat Representative Seth Moulton saying that Trump may murder Americans next. So you probably should watch this from under your desk or something.
I mean, look, the President of the United States and his Secretary of Defense are conducting murder on the high seas. They're committing murder, and Americans should care. Like, look, none of us like drug traffickers, but we have laws that say that drug traffickers don't get summarily executed. And if it's happening off the coast of America with people that we don't know, just give it time before Donald Trump starts doing this same kind of thing to people we do know right here at home. It matters if the President of the United States breaks the law.
That is quite a jump right there. So by Donald Trump stopping illegal narco-terrorist drug dealers from getting to our shores, you just jumped and said that Donald Trump is going to start killing Americans on American soil. It's absurd, completely consistent with everything that these people do. And why is that? Well, because Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, is, I believe it to be, an actual medical, psychological condition that should be studied for decades to come. I thought this was interesting from Breitbart News. Rosie O'Donnell seems to be unable to heed the advice of her own therapist, who told her to try detaching from her constant, all-consuming, wild-eyed hatred for Donald Trump for just 2 days. Apparently, the former TV talk show host just couldn't last even 2 hours. I mean, really, think about that. This crazy woman left the country to move to Ireland, as if the Irish don't have enough problems with their homegrown jihad situation over there. They've got to deal with her now. And she was her therapist. Can you imagine being Rosie O'Donnell's therapist? Like, that's somebody who, you're like, drinkcopal.com. It'll help if you're watching. But like, she couldn't do it for 2 hours. You know, one of the funny things that happens to me when I go off the grid for August, obviously I don't have Trump derangement syndrome, but I do try to purge a lot of the stuff that I'm always thinking about, like, and the news and all these things. I just forget a lot of these names. And there will be moments where, like, I'm a week or 10 days in and suddenly, like, boy, I haven't thought about Trump in 10 days. I'm not because I'm obsessed with him, but it's just, he does loom large in the world, but some people have basically made him the center of the universe. We will get to more on how the mainstream media uses kid gloves with these people who get all of the things backwards in just a second. But first, Jubin. Guys, if you're dealing with joint pain, stiffness, or just not bouncing back like you used to, you've got to hear this. There's this fitness tool originally designed for NASA astronauts called the Juvent Micro Impact Platform. Unlike those jarring high-impact machines, the Juvent uses gentle, natural vibrations to activate your body's healing response. It helps ease chronic pain, improve circulation, and boost joint health. You just stand on it for 10 to 20 minutes a day while you watch this show, or you have your morning coffee. That's it. It's completely safe, made right here in the USA, and backed by millions in research and clinical studies. So if you've been dealing with pain or fatigue, check out juvent.com/Rubin. That's JUVENT.com/Rubin, and use code Rubin to save $300 on your next Juvent. There's a 6-week money-back guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose, except maybe your pain. All right, so look, a lot of the Democrats are nuts. We get it. But the issue is that the lies and the hysteria and the, oh my God, they're going to come kill Americans, it gets laundered through the system and it affects brains. It quite literally, it breaks people's ability to think properly. Coming in the next few weeks will be a communist/quasi-jihadist, Moron Zamboni, he is now the mayor-elect of New York City. It's just, how, and it's getting worse because he is now starting to select his cabinet and the people that will be running the city, and it's completely bananas. Listen to this from the New York Post. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani has picked a controversial rapper who did 7 years in a state prison for armed robbery, to advise him on the criminal justice system, the Post has learned. Myson Lennon, 49, a Bronx convict turned activist who was found guilty of 2 felony heists in the late 1990s, was appointed by the Democratic Socialists to sit on his mayoral transitions criminal legal system committee, just one of many questionable picks. Bronx prosecutors said that the crew pulled off the June 8, 1997 robbery of taxi driver Joseph Aziri and March 31, 1998 gunpoint theft from cabbie Francisco Monsanto, according to the news. You know who might have been more qualified than this guy? How about Francisco Monsanto? I don't know what he's doing these days, but he probably would have had a better sense of what should be happening with the legal system after he got robbed by gunpoint with the guy that Zohran's putting... Here's Zohran explaining that he's only picking the best and the brightest on his team.
We put together a team of more than 400 New Yorkers who are on 17 different committees, and these are New Yorkers who bring with them both a fluency of the policies and politics of the city, the places that they've succeeded, the places that they've failed. And we will take all of their experiences and their analysis into account as we build a city for each and every person.
It's just meaningless nothing. Do you think that there is going to be diversity of thought? Do you think they will do anything that will be pro-freedom or pro-capitalism or pro-business or pro the ability for people to build properly there or feel that their property will be safe when the mobs come and everything else? It's just meaningless drivel, and good luck with all of that. But just as bad as moron Zamboni is, of course, the lizard man, Gavin Newsom, who will be running for president soon enough. And, despite California burning down and the drugs and the theft and the crime and losing the tax base and all of the problems, he was able to write a book, which I'm sure he wrote himself. And, well, look at this.
This is not the book you'd expect me to write. It's a story about the people that better or worse, make us who we are, made me who I am. The hopes that drive us forward, the failures that send us reeling, and the immense burden of grief and regret. Nobody's family is easy. Nobody's story is tidy, and I'm no different. A lot of people look at me, the stark white shirt, the blue suit, and the gelled hair, and they think, I know this guy. I know this guy better than I'd ever want to know him. I get it. This is a story of a kid who always felt like he wasn't quite enough. This is a truly vulnerable book. It was incredibly hard, even painful to write. It's a story about living between two worlds, one of wealth and privilege and the other of more modest upbringing, the outsider on the inside, the interloper who learned to feel comfortable in many rooms. It's a story of the personas we create to face the world around us, the story of self-doubt and, yes, ambition.
Do we not have the inflatable clown that I used to punch every now and again to get some shit out? No? All right, we gotta see if we can get... Yeah. That was nice of Joseph. He just volunteered that I can just punch him. That seems... I'd have to talk to HR on that one, but I do appreciate it. Let's just get on Amazon and get me an inflatable clown, or inflatable lizard, actually, would be better, because he is a lizard person. He is a cold-blooded lizard person who, as we pointed out the other day, the only reason he can sit with his legs like this, which is not a human way of sitting, is because lizards have their testicles inside. You can see that he's running for president. They are recrafting a story about him. I wonder if they're going to have anything about the crazy coke-fueled orgies that he was having in San Francisco. But I think we have an image of Gavin, actually. Yes, that was him hatching out of an egg. That was a quick AI thing. We only had about 30 seconds. That's definitely not the best AI thing we ever did there. I may have to punch you later. Anywho, Liberty Valkyrie, an ex-commentator, wrote this. I thought it was quite good about that book launch. I'm so glad that the worst fires under his watch, skyrocketing homelessness and holding almost 25% of the country's illegals, gave Gavin Newsom enough time to write a biography, and just in time to keep him relevant for 2028. Yeah, as if he wrote it or anything else. Anyway, the whole place, communist California, it is so collapsed under him, and that doesn't mean there aren't good people there. And by the way, 40% of the place is Republican, and they are just under the foot of a majority that wants to seemingly destroy the place. But I thought this was quite interesting. This is a man calling out the LA City Council for spending $450 million to house only about 1,100 people.
Now, when you look at the spending that we're actually doing, it's mostly inside safe spending, right? And so far, we have spent $450 million to permanently house 1,144 people. $450 million to permanently house 1,100 people. That's an absolute failure. But that money is going somewhere. It's not like that money is just falling into the abyss. That money ends up being somebody's profit. Hugo should know this. In my neighborhood, there's not a single street light that works in the 6-block area. You can come, I live on Citrus Avenue between Fountain and DeLongpre. You go down that street, there's not a light that works. On Higman, there's not a light that works. There's not a light that works on DeLongpre from Highland down to Orange. There's not a light that works on Sycamore. There's not a light that works on Orange. There's not a light that works on Leland Way. You guys are spending so much money on policing. You want to reduce crime? How about put some lights on in the city? It's bad in my neighborhood in Hollywood. It's worse in South Central.
It's true. That's not too far from where I used to live. And it's all true. I mean, Hollywood itself, like downtown Hollywood, became absolutely unlivable, particularly during COVID, but even after that. West Hollywood, which was the gayest place on earth, so it had a lot of upscale things, that became a basic, like a drug den and psychoville. Like, they've destroyed that place. And it's funny, I remember, you all know, I left, actually, it's 1 week from today, 4 years ago. So on December 17th, 2021 is when we arrived in the free state of Florida. And of course, it was 90% COVID stuff and the corruption and, that I campaigned with Larry Elder against Gavin and all that. But it was also that I did not feel safe there. We moved in the middle of COVID. We moved up the hill thinking it would be a little bit safer, but I didn't even feel safe there. And somebody was murdered. I think it was can you Google, was there one of the housewives, like the Real Housewives, that was murdered, or somebody broke into her house, or maybe it was a record executive or something, like a couple blocks away from us. And I remember thinking, boy, I'm somewhat outspoken here, and it's like, could someone just break into my house and kill me, and that would be that, and nobody would do anything. So every time these idiots lead with empathy, we're going to be empathetic towards the homeless people and towards the drug addicts and all the immigrants who want to come here. What you end up doing is punishing the law-abiding legal citizens of your country who are just like that guy, just trying to make sure he can feed his family and take the dog for a walk at night without being stabbed. Crazy bastard. Let's talk about lean for a minute, and then we'll get to the Republicans who better wake up soon. Doctors call it weight cycling, and half of Americans experience it. The pattern's familiar. You lose 10 or so pounds only to gain them right back. Over time, this back and forth puts tremendous strain on your organs, raising the risk of diabetes, liver damage, heart attack, and stroke. Most people need help to break the cycle, and that's where Lean comes in. Created by doctors, Lean is a non-prescription oral supplement, not a GLP-1 injectable, and its science is impressive. Its carefully studied ingredients are designed to help maintain healthy blood sugar, control appetite and cravings, and burn fat by converting it into energy. And by burning fat, Lean makes it easier to lose weight at a healthy pace and keep it off for good. If you're ready to stop weight cycling and finally sustain your results, add Lean to your diet and exercise routine. Get 20% off today when you enter code Rubin at takelean.com. Yeah, what I was referencing there, Joseph just did a little check on that. There was a woman by the name of Jacqueline Avant. She was the wife of a music executive by the name of Clarence Avant, and she was just murdered in cold blood in a home invasion. It was right near us. It turns out it was December 1st, so it was right before we left. I mean, it was just an endless cascade. People were breaking into our mailbox left and right. The general state of homelessness and there you got it. The Republicans do need to wake up, because as crazy as the Democrats are, Republicans maybe don't have a good messaging right now. Like, maybe it's like in a sane world, I think if you were empirically looking at all of the major issues and everything else, Republicans seem to be virtually on the right side of pretty much everything. But for whatever reason, and it has to do with the laundering of the lies, and it has to do with the way the Democrats control the machine, and it has to do, I guess, with a little bit of the deep state and all of those things, we still are in these 50-50 elections. And even in a place like Texas, which you think of Texas, you think of the guy in the cowboy hat with the big belt going to Sunday Night Lights, and like that he cares about America and all those things. But Texas even could turn blue. Jasmine Crockett, Lady Eyelashes, is running for Senate. And here is Jake Tapper actually doing a decent job calling her out for saying that Latinos who voted for Trump have a slave mentality.
Let me ask you about a quote that you've made that has some Democrats worried about your ability to win statewide. In a December 2024 Vanity Fair profile, you talked about, quote, and I'm going to read a lot of the quote just to put it in the context, quote, all the complexities within the Latino community. The immigration thing has always been something that has perplexed me about this community. It's basically like I fought to get here, but I left y'all where I left y'all, and I want no more y'all to come here. If I wanted to be with y'all, I would stay with y'all, but I don't want y'all coming to my new home. It almost reminds me of what people would talk about when they would talk about kind of like slave mentality and the hate that some slaves would have for themselves. It's almost like a slave mentality that they have. Now, about the time that that was published last year, around 1 million Latino voters in Texas were voting for Trump. Do they all have slave mentality?
No, and that's not what that said at all, to be clear. It did not say that every Latino has that type of mentality.
No, but the ones that vote for people who believe in strong or Trump's immigration policies.
So I don't believe that the people that voted for Trump believe in what they're actually getting.
Even worse, because if your answer is they don't believe that they're getting what they think they're getting, that you're basically saying they're effing retards, right? Like, so that's even worse than saying they have a slave mentality. But there's also something funny about having Jake Tapper say y'all 17 times. But lady, you meant what you said. You meant what you said. And the irony, of course, of what you said is that many Latinos are Republicans right now, because guess what? Not all Latinos came here illegally. Many millions of Latinos from various countries came here legally. And often, particularly in Texas, in the border towns, they vote Republican because they came here legally, and while they may have an affinity to someone else who's coming from Mexico or Guatemala or somewhere, they may have some cultural affinity towards them. If they came legally and then they just see this person showing up and getting benefits and and getting in before their own family was able to get in all those things, they're pissed, and they're rightfully pissed, and they're Americans. And in some sense, they're more American than you are. And also, it's just racist. You think that all people who are Hispanic must think the way you do, and if they don't, they have a slave mentality. It is the same, it's the racism, or you could call it the soft bigotry of low expectations. These people are so damn dumb that if they don't do exactly what I want them to do, because I'm bright, then they are basically race traitors. Now, what's scary about this is this woman could win. Like, we now have evidence. Mamdani won in New York. Now, New York is blue, 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 but anything can happen. Let's not forget that only, 2 election cycles ago, that lunatic, Beto O'Rourke, who wanted to take everybody's guns in freaking Texas, only lost to Ted Cruz by, I think, 2 points. Can you get me the number? I think it was a 2.6, if I'm not mistaken. We'll check on that. But here is Crockett saying that Mamdani's victory in New York City proves that she can win Texas.
Let me tell you something. Mamdani has not backed down whatsoever from his rhetoric against the president. In the Oval Office, he stood there and he said what he said about him being a fascist, yet he was able to win those voters. So Democrats that believe the only way that you can win is by being soft and sounding like a Republican, that is not true. What people are looking for are people that are tough and are fighters and are going to fight for them.
Okay, so I was basically right. Cruz only beat Beto O'Rourke in Texas a couple years ago by 3%. 3%. So it is not wildly out of the realm of possibility that this woman, with all of her crazy radical policies, which she's telling you right there, she's saying, I'm going to be as crazy and radical as possible, because if I'm not, I'm basically a Republican. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility that she will win. And by the way, that is exactly what I've been warning about for months, that if Mamdani won, it wasn't just that he was going to destroy New York City, and that would kind of be obvious and all of that. It would be that it could set off a chain reaction. It could scale throughout the country, where suddenly you'd see people in other cities being like, oh, that's the plan. That's the plan. We have this bold, crazy lunatic, but he's winning, so let's get on board that. So if you think the Democrat Party is radical now, just you wait. Of course, Crockett isn't the brightest bulb. And here she is on CNN explaining that she doesn't need Trump supporters to vote for her.
How will you convert those who are supportive of him to voters for you?
Yeah, I don't know that we'll necessarily convert all of Trump's supporters. That's not our goal.
Do you need to?
Our goal is to definitely talk to people. No, we don't. We don't need to.
You don't need Trump supporters? You don't need Trump supporters? That seems pretty crazy, but you should want them. Instead of talking down to them. You think that Hispanics who vote another way than the way you want them to are a bunch of racists. Now you seem to think that you just said it, not seem to think. You just said before that Trump supporters don't even know what they're voting for. So I would say good luck with all of that. If you think it is slightly depressing that woman could be a senator from Texas. Something quite terrible happened here in Miami. Now, I'm in the suburbs of Miami, so this is not my mayor, but listen to this from NPR. Democrat wins Miami's mayor's race for the first time in nearly 30 years. Democrat Eileen Higgins won the Miami mayor's race on Tuesday, defeating a Republican endorsed by President Donald Trump to end her party's nearly 3-decade losing streak and give Democrats a boost in one of the last electoral battles ahead of the 2026 midterms. Higgins, 61 years old, will be the first woman to lead the city of Miami. She spoke frequently in the Hispanic majority city about Trump's immigration crackdown, saying she has heard of many people in Miami who were worried about family members being detained. So we should be clear, there's a couple interesting things here that people get confused by. So Miami is obviously the city of Miami. I've had my friend Francis Suarez on the show many, many times. He's been the mayor of Miami. He has done an absolutely bang-up job of cleaning up and keeping a city safe and prosperous that so many refugees from other cities were coming to, right? We've imported, I don't know the exact amount of people that have come in the last couple of years, but the growth here has been incredible, the amount that they're doing on infrastructure. Some of you may remember this. I was doing the show live about 3 years ago, and I was talking about how many homeless people there are in Los Angeles and San Francisco, and off the cuff, I was like, I don't know how many there are in Miami, and literally during the show, he was watching, he texted me and said, there's 146 and we're working on it. And the guy was incredible. However, unbelievably low turnout. Listen to this. I mean, this is so crazy. The voter turnout in the election for the mayor of Miami yesterday was 20%. Gonzalez got 40% of that 20%, and Higgins got basically 60%, 59% of that 20%. So if you don't vote, if you just bitch and moan and complain, this is what we will end up in. Now, again, it should be noted, they're talking about Miami City proper, and it is possible that she really just, she went to these hardcore Latino communities and she just ramped up the fear around it, so that there's something around that. She's not talking about, this isn't about Miami-Dade County, the entire county of which there are many, many mayors. Here is Higgins, not too long ago, being asked if she's a socialist, and watch how she dodges the question.
Are you a socialist?
Well, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I know that is really dull to report about in the news. The very first time my opponent in 2018 called me that, I knew I was going to win, because they stopped talking about the issues and they stopped talking about my skill set and my experience. They could never counter me as a person who works every day for the people, and so they just started name calling. When they call me names, that makes me feel a little more confident, because they're not talking about me. They're talking about some amorphous idea and ideology. I guess they read manifestos all the time. I don't understand why they waste their time with that.
Lady, the question was, are you a socialist? And you just jumped through a whole bunch of hoops to not answer the question. And yes, socialism is an ideology with a manifesto. Marxism is a manifesto. You can read Karl Marx's writings. It doesn't matter if you're talking about socialism or communism or anything else. Anyway, we shall see what happens in Miami, but I would say it's a sad day in South Florida. How about that? Tyrus over on Fox News, who's on Gutfeld all the time, here he is pointing out that Republicans better freaking step up now, because you cannot leave this to Trump doing rallies to freaking save the country.
I hate this.
Hate what?
I absolutely hate that the president has to leave the White House to go campaign for these Republicans. Republicans, step up. Why does daddy have to come save you? This is the problem. Trump comes in, the arena's sold out. Everyone's going crazy. Trump leaves 4 people, and 2 of them are the Republicans' family members. Republicans, you have to step up. You should want the endorsement, but you should be the one knocking on doors. You should be the one, maybe it won't be a gold escalator like the president went down, but go down yours. Get out there. Get on social media. Go to the White House. He has important things to do that he's doing. He's changing the world for a better place, and now he's got to go fly out and bail out all these Republicans. You have to start stepping up and doing your part. The president should not have to do this.
It's funny. I've got my issues with Tyrus. We've been on the show many times together. I think we put them to bed. Me, him, and Gutfeld, and somebody else once went out after the show. Me and him got into a massive shouting match, and I was like, I probably should end this argument right now, because he weighs 6 times what I weigh. But in any event, he's completely right there. Republicans, you better figure out how to get better right now, right? Well, I'm always talking about the narrative here. It doesn't matter what the policies are. Again, if you're empirically looking at the policies, are the policies of a sane border better than their crazy open border policies? Are the policies of of not printing money better than endlessly printing money, or the policies of having other countries pay their fair share in all these international agreements. Like the Republicans have all the winning issues, but we have to understand people are dumb. Algorithms have broken brains. Education system has broken brains. All those things. So you better figure it out, because Donald Trump cannot come save you. Just ask only 20% of people in Miami voted, and then the Trump endorsed candidate lost. So we can do the political thing all day long. We can, and we will continue to, but it is not all about politics. We better figure out like what lights us up inside to inspire ourselves and other people to continue this country, because it isn't that. Yes, Trump is a like a gem that came out of nowhere, right? Like he's the one once in a generation figure. We're going to get other good politicians, and there are some other decent people, but they're not going to solve all of our problems. Our own problems are going to be solved by ourselves. And Erica Kirk, I thought, laid out something that was quite good here.
I was really struck by you saying just a few days after Charlie was murdered that you forgave Tyler Robinson, the alleged murderer, I think we're still supposed to say. Can you talk to us about how you managed to do that? Because
hate is very powerful from the standpoint of it's all consuming. It will deteriorate. It will tear you apart. I know they say it's like drinking a poison. It impacts you more than the other person. And if I had any ounce of hate in my heart, the Lord would not be able to use me. I also want to be able to show people that, yes, okay, you forgive someone. You don't forget what they did. It's not a weakness. It's a form of a strength to know, okay, Lord, I am surrendering to you. You have a choice. Am I going to stand in the corner, be in fetal position and crying, or I'm going to stand on my 2 feet by the Lord's strength, be able to say, Lord, give me grace today. I don't know how you're going to use it, but I know you'll use it for your glory. I'm here. Use me. Shine the light of where I'm supposed to go.
You know, guys, it just hit me. I just looked down at my phone. It's 3 months ago today. It was September 10th, 2025, 3 months ago today. And if you think about all of the things that have transpired over the last 3 months, particularly on the right, with so much of this fighting and craziness, which I'm dipping my toes into and then trying just not to be part of it, because I'm trying not to lead with hate, and I'm trying to model something that's a little bit better here, because I think that's more in line with what America should be. And I also think on the spiritual end of what she's talking about, that's the only way that I can do it without going completely crazy. But only 3 months ago, and there she is, and that she's not holding that hate. And by the way, there's going to be at some point with the trial of this kid, they are likely, I think they've already said they're going to go for the death penalty. And she has, I think, said that she doesn't want that, or she's not going to call for it, even though Charlie himself was for capital punishment in incidences like this. So there's political things, and then there's philosophical/religious things. I want to show you one other clip, because this was going super viral yesterday. This is an interview that Elon did over the last couple of days. And he was asked who he looks up to the most.
Who do you look up to the most?
The Creator.
What's your current position on God?
God is the Creator.
You don't believe in God, though, do you?
Well, I believe this universe came from something. People have different labels.
You know, I like that answer. It's very Jordan Peterson-esque in a certain way. You know, he says God, basically, or he says the Creator, and then she says, but you don't believe in God. And it's when people ask Jordan the question about God, and he's always like, well, I don't even know exactly what you mean by that. So Jordan's argument on God, he basically believes that if you tell the truth for truth's sake, that in essence, I can't even do it as well as Jordan would, but if you tell the truth for truth's sake, that will give you the best of all outcomes. It doesn't mean it's going to be a good outcome, but it will be the best. That God, the orderer, the creator of the universe, is so inherently connected to truth there's a functional utility, and it's a leap of faith to say, if I tell the truth, that the best of all outcomes will happen. That's what a leap of faith actually is. You don't know that that's right, but if you behave that way, then maybe you can add some order to the universe. And Elon's giving a very similar answer in some sense there, that he believes we came from somewhere. We were created out of something. This isn't just primordial stew that randomly all came together. And that even if I suspect that Elon probably at his scientific mind believes in the Big Bang Theory, let's say, but where did it start? Where did it come from? But the creator part, I like that he said creator there. because that's what we are supposed to be too. If man is made in the image of God, we're supposed to create things. Remember I showed you that clip a couple days ago of Adam Carolla talking about why modernity has left so many people twiddling their thumbs and angry and nervous and neurotic and all those things, because we're not supposed to just be sitting in a cubicle doing nothing. We're supposed to build and create and learn how to build communities and all of those things. So maybe we could get back to a little bit of that, and then the political part will mean a little bit less. I'm calling it right now. That was a 9-5, people. I don't know what else I could have done on today's show. I really don't. Except I could have punched you. That would have been the one. That would have driven home. I don't believe in the 10, but that might have done it. Post-game show, 30 seconds, RubinReport.locals.com. Goodbye.
Here is the biggest, gayest man in the world. Wow. So gay. So gay.
All right, people of the internet, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is Friday, July 11th, which means it's time for another roundtable extravaganza. And joining me today is the chairwoman of the House GOP, Representative Lisa McClain, and Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Dunn. Ladies, Congresswomen, how else can I refer to you? How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. We're gonna recap. I was going to say a crazy week. It's getting harder to cover the news these days because is every week basically a crazy week for you guys pretty much at this point?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So much is coming out of the White House. I think is actually fantastic. People aren't used to the government working like this. It's working more like a private business and coming out with all these things. And we're just trying to keep up.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to focus on the show. I know everybody wants to focus on negativity, but there actually is a lot of good stuff coming out of this administration. We've fixed a lot quickly. We're going to get into some of that and then some of the negativity as well. But let's start with some of the ICE stuff lately and some of the fallout from the big, beautiful bill and budgetary concerns, at least as it pertains to the Democrats. Let me read this from Time magazine. ICE's current annual budget is around $10 billion. Under the version of the bill that passed the Senate, the agency would receive an infusion of more than $100 billion through 2029, $45 billion for detention facilities, $46 billion for border wall operations in the U.S., the U.S.-Mexico border, and $14 billion for deportation operations. The agency currently has about 6,000 deportation officers. It'll receive billions of dollars more to hire an additional 10,000 new agents by 2029. So, ladies, obviously there's some fighting or some tension between, say, the Elon wing of the party that didn't want an increase in spending and the portion of the party that wanted all of these things to be passed. Congresswoman McClain, I'll start with you. I basically felt that the bill just had to pass. I wanted the tax cuts. I wanted the border taken care of. And the spending, as much as we want to cut it, sometimes government just has to do some things. Is that an overly simplistic way of looking at all of this?
No, I think you put it very well. Couple of things I would add to that too is let's remember we cut 1.6 trillion. I can't remember the last time that we cut that much or found that much in savings. So, I liken it to going on a diet. If I want to lose 25 pounds, I don't lose all 25 pounds in the first week. I celebrate if I lose 4 or 5 pounds. Remember, we have reconciliation, we have rescissions, we have appropriations. And then if we do our job right, we'll come back with another reconciliation package. I can't believe I'm talking about that right now, but here we are. Yes, that is true. Unfortunately, you are right on the amount of money that we're spending in ICE. I wish we didn't have to spend that, but unfortunately, when you let millions, tens of millions of people into our country illegally, we got to get them out, and to get them out costs money. So let me tell you, I wish we didn't have to spend that money, but you know what? It's like putting an alarm system on your house. Sometimes you got to spend some money to make sure that you're safe, and that, unfortunately, that's what we're doing.
Congresswoman Van Dunn, is that really the crux of all of this? That I think most conservative-leaning people do want the cuts, but it's coming up, it's sort of being pushed against a wall, which is we also voted to have a border, to have the deportations, and to stop the 21 million people that came in the last 4 years. So you're just going to have to spend. It's just reality.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, look, I was one of these the 30 plus members that said that we wanted to make sure that whatever bill we put on the floor actually did not increase the deficit. We were very serious about that. As you know, when it left the House, that's where we were. When it got out of the Senate, they changed it. And basically it came down to one vote in the Senate. And we had to weigh whether or not it was worth it to get security at our border, to be able to have a manufacturing resurgence, to be able to increase our economic growth, to be able to give some kind of certainty to our businesses while all these other things are happening around the world, increased inflation that we saw under the Biden administration. If we were able to give them certainty of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act's provisions not expiring at the end of this year, we had to weigh that. At the end of the day, I spoke with the president. I spoke with Mike Johnson. I spoke with Stephen Miller. I spoke with Russ Vought, and I said, these are my concerns. We are approaching $37 trillion of debt. We have $1 trillion a year that we're spending for our debt servicing, which is more than we spend on defense. At some point, we have got to get serious with these cuts. But at the same token, you can't let this bill not pass. So what's going to happen is Lisa is exactly right. We have an opportunity with rescissions, with a second reconciliation package, with another tax bill to be able to fix and get in what we didn't get in this first bill. A lot of people are like, well, why is this massive bill? Why are you handling all of this in one? Can't we just have a bunch of little bills that are understood? Nobody likes these massive bills. The problem is you only have one shot at reconciliation and a second to be able to fix it every year.
Yeah.
So that otherwise you have to have 60 plus votes in the Senate, which we don't have. So we tried to pack as much in this bill as possible to make sure that we are focused on the economic growth that we need moving forward. That economic growth is going to be key to cutting down on our deficit. Because if we don't have that and these businesses aren't investing, which we're seeing, they are investing trillions of dollars into our U.S. economy. If we don't have that, it doesn't matter about the cuts because you're going to have such a drop in the economy that we'll never be able to make it back up.
I normally wouldn't do this, but because I have two congresswomen on, do you mind if we do first names just so it's a little easier to throw to each of you? So I don't have to say congresswoman each time. I mean that with all due respect, of course. But so Lisa, to that point, I mean, I think one of the things that people get confused by is everyone says, okay, we'd like to cut the deficit, and then no one really wants to run on that or do anything about it because people don't want to feel the pain. How do you balance that as a politician and then also as someone that does care and doesn't want us to be a debtor nation forever and, lead to blowing up the economy and everything else?
I mean, it's tough. Is what I always say is everybody ran on, we want to cut spending. We want to cut spending. Right up until it comes to, we want to cut spending in my district. Then, I want to cut spending in your district, but not mine. So at the end of the day, our issue is we have a 3-seat majority. And we have a very diverse conference, right? You have issues. You have representatives like Beth and I, who are in very conservative districts, who are very conservative. We want to cut way more, I think, than the average bear would want to cut. And then you have people that are, for example, in Biden districts where Biden won by 8 or 10, and they're very nervous about making any cuts. So you really have to have that balance. So what we have to evaluate is when we press that button, we don't get an opportunity to press the perfect button. Is the bill that we're putting on the floor better than what we currently have right now? That's what you have to weigh. And the answer to this was yes, it was, but that's why Beth is 100% right. We have got to go back and continue to tighten our belt because there is way more work that needs to be done, and that's unfortunately just the way it is.
So since the bill was passed, we don't have to focus on the monetary part of it. What I do want to focus on for a moment is what's going on with the ICE agents, because some of your counterparts in Congress and certainly the Democrat media, I mean, the rhetoric against the ICE agents has really ramped up. I want to show you this video of Caroline Levitt. She's specifically going off on Stacey Abrams as it pertains to threatening ICE agents, but it's not just Stacey Abrams, it's plenty of other people. Take a look.
In your monologue, Jesse, I can't believe I heard stupid Stacey Abrams say that deportations kill democracy. Newsflash, Stacey, wide open borders kills democracy. And that's what the American people voted against. The American public witnessed an open border, illegal alien invasion for 4 years, and they said enough is enough. The vast majority of this country supports deporting illegal criminals from our communities. This administration is all hands on deck in doing that, despite pushback from these radical Democrats at the state and local level. ICE and Border Patrol are doing the work that they swore an oath to do, to remove public safety threats from our communities, to protect our nation, our homeland, and our citizens. And they face now a 700% increase in violence from radical left lunatics. And we're not going to tolerate that. Anyone who threatens or who partakes in violence against our brave law enforcement officers against this in this country is going to face the fullest extent of justice from our great Attorney General.
Beth, you mentioned up top that there is so much good stuff happening here, and it's what I try to focus on with this show. But as it comes to deportations, it seems to me Donald Trump ran on this. He promised he was going to do it. That's what the people voted for. He then gave the Democrat governors and mayors plenty of time to do something about this for months and months before they sent Border Patrol and ICE agents in. He also allowed people to have an app to self-deport and everything else. Like, he did everything that he could have possibly done to have this been done as civilly as possible, if that's even the right word for this. And there's sort of nothing, I think, that he could have done short of not deporting anyone that would have made them happy and then lower the rhetoric.
No, what they want to be happy is they want to have all of those folks who are illegally in their districts because people are voting with their feet and they're moving out of blue districts into areas like Florida and Texas. So they're going to start losing their congressional seats. This is all about power at the end of the day. They don't want to lose their congressional seats, and they would rather have folks come here illegally to be able to repopulate them. Don't take my word for it. That's what the Democrats are saying. I was mayor of Irving. It's one of the top 100 largest cities in the country. I worked with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Our police partnered with ICE. And what would happen is if someone was arrested in our city, they were detained. If they could not prove they were legally here, we detained them. ICE came, they interviewed them. And if they were found to be here illegally, they were deported. At one point, we had more deportations of criminal illegal aliens in Irving, Texas than any other city in the country per capita. What happened? I was attacked. I was called everything from racist, hater, you name it. But what happened was our crime went down. We didn't get sued because, as you said, it was orderly, it was organized. And people who don't want this don't seem to understand about crime. They don't seem to understand that the people who are most typically the victims of criminal illegal aliens are other people in the minority community. So they are the racist, they are the haters. We became the 5th safest city in the country because we had an organized partnership with ICE. All of these mayors can do it. It doesn't take any additional funding. It doesn't take any additional bills. They can do it. They're purposely not doing it because at the end of the day, this is all about maintaining their power.
Right. Well, for some reason, they never want us to know the names of any of the victims of the crime or rape or murders that the illegals are doing. I want to show you this video. I call him Timu Obama. I don't use a lot of names on this show, but I call him Timu Obama. This is Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries, and of course, going after Trump instead of going after the people who are going after ICE.
According to Axios, some are even being told they need to be more willing to go out there and get shot when fighting. That was a direct quote, get shot when fighting back against some of Trump's policies. One House Democrat saying, quote, and I'll read it to you, our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough. There needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public. How do you respond to that, Leader Jeffries? Are Democrats not meeting the moment, not doing enough to fight these developments?
Well, we are in a more is more environment in terms of the unprecedented assault on the American way of life and our country that has been launched by Donald Trump and compliant House Republicans.
Lisa, it really is incredible to me with these guys. Like, Wolf is basically saying him, do you condemn violence? And he can't. He makes it about Trump. I mean, does anything surprise you? And what do you make more broadly of the tension that the Democrats have right now with sort of whatever you want to consider, Hakeem, like that crew, which is not like the full-on socialist crew, versus the growing movement that obviously is mamdani and AOC, et cetera?
But they are, because you're compliant.
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries, who is supposedly one of the leaders of the Democratic Party, I mean, he's the minority leader, you can't condemn violence? Are you kidding me? The picture couldn't be more clear. The Democrats are on the side of the criminals. Period. Republicans, we are on the side of the victims. We are on the side of law and order. It's really plain to see. And you know what? The American people saw that. And what's happening? That's why Republicans won in a landslide in the 24 election. And I'll tell you, if they continue to keep this rhetoric up and this violence up, it's going to be the same. The problem with Donald Trump and the problem with the Democrats and Donald Trump is Trump derangement syndrome is real. President Trump could come up with the cure for cancer and they wouldn't buy it. They hate this man so much. And why? I don't know. Because he believes in the American dream, because he believes in peace, because he believes in America first, because he believes in unleashing American energy. I mean, I could go on and on. But the Democrats have no plan, no vision, and no leader. But seriously, if you were to take the names off the headings, you would think we're talking about violence in a third world country like Venezuela. The Democrats have lost their mind. It's sad, and it's only going to lead to more violence, which is really concerning. And I applaud the ICE agents and all law enforcement agents for doing what they're doing. Because as you said, the attack and the assault on them is up 700%. And the Democrats want to double down, like Hakeem Jeffries, and they want to double down on that violence. Come on.
Well, I think they're rudderless, right? I mean, they don't have the media now that means anything, because people don't watch it anymore because they've known that they've been lying for forever. So they don't have a message that all they have is hate, and they will get together with any group that hates America, and that's the group that they're going to support. And you look at that coming out of cities like New York, with mamdani now being the probably the next mayor of New York City, who seems to hate the city. And I hate to say this, but you're going to see a prequel, right? Of like Escape from New York, where you're going to have Snake going in there, and everybody's going to want to leave, going to places like California. I mean, going to places like Texas, going to places like Florida, and going to places like Tennessee.
Can you stop bringing up Florida, please? Can we leave Florida out of this?
You know it, and I know it. People with any rationality that care about their safety, that care about their future, that care about, being able to leave generational wealth are going to leave places like New York and California because it's absolutely insane. And instead of recognizing that, Democrats are doubling down on crazy. They don't have a message that works. So the only thing they can do is continue to inflame to be able to get likes and people watching them. But it's not support they're getting. It is a clown show that people are watching and waiting for the train wreck.
The one thing I would say that is always mind-blowing to me is if you hate this country so much, there's nothing that's keeping you here. It would be cheaper for us to pay for these people to if you hate the country so much and are burning the American flag and think this is just an awful country, there's flights leaving every day. Happy to get on one. I don't understand that. Go and live in these countries that you worship at their altar.
It's pretty easy to hate a country that allows you to hate it. I think that's the hidden gem in there. Ironically, there is one Democrat who seems to be sane, and he had brain damage a year ago. It's John Fetterman. Listen to this.
Absolutely unacceptable, terrible, awful. ICE agents are just doing their job, and I fully support that. And for me, and people in my party might want to abolish it or treat them as criminals or anything that's inappropriate and outrageous. ICE performs an important job for our nation.
Beth, joking aside, the fact that this guy has become the most moderate Dem and is basically the only one in the party, although I'd be happy to hear some others if you know them, that is willing to stand up to the more, let's say, communist, leftist, socialist base, whatever you want to call them. I mean, it's rather extraordinary, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. But you start thinking about what he's saying. It's common sense. And the fact that we cannot have bipartisan agreement, that we don't want criminal illegals here, that we don't want people who want to harm us here, that we can't even get the Democrats to come and admit that because it somehow would be agreeing or supporting what Donald Trump is trying to get done. That kind of tells you the extent of the hate. And look, Fetterman aside, I would hope that there were other folks of the Democrat Party that would be willing to come out and talk about the craziness. But again, they're doubling down. And you got to start wondering who is actually behind all of this? Who is giving them these talking points that they think are winning? And that's where, follow the money. Molly Hemingway was great. She came in to talk to a group of us a couple of years ago. And she said, you all think that the Democrats that get support from the media, that the media is an arm of the Democrats. She goes, think about it a different way. Think about it. You know your colleagues in the Democrat Party. Are they really that organized? Are they really that intelligent? Or is it more like the Democrats are an arm of the media? Follow the money. Who's supporting it? Who's behind it? And this is not some kind of deep red, state conspiracy. When you start figuring it out, the policies that they were pushing that were hurting America, who are the corporations that were benefiting from it? Who are the countries that were benefiting from it? At the end of the day, it's about power and it's about money. And the Democrats seem to be completely enthralled with that, while the Republicans and Donald Trump seem to be focused on America and America first.
So obviously one portion of the big, beautiful bill was the ICE funding. One portion of it that people were less, or that certain people were less happy about, was quote unquote cuts to Medicaid, which I'm sure you guys will help clean up the language on that in a moment. Here's Scott Jennings on CNN talking to Ana Navarro.
You are facing a real issue where Republicans are becoming the party of taking things away, of cutting things, cutting things.
Because I hear your analysis, and it's a valid debating point. My rebuttal to that would be Democrats have become the party of exploding government benefit programs during COVID, vastly expanding Medicaid beyond what it was ever intended to do, and then saying, gee whiz, now people are trying to take things away.
Do you think people like healthcare, though? Do you think people like healthcare? Do you think people
they like healthcare. I don't think they like the system we live under, which is not a Republican system. It's
by the
Obamacare,
way,
which exploded premiums and has vastly expanded the welfare system. An attempt to work is a good thing, and the Republican ethos is encouraging work. The Democratic ethos is encouraging government dependence.
Quick correction, that was Garcia Navarro, not Ana Navarro. It's a fine line between Navarros on CNN. Lisa, the broad point there, what she's trying to do is something that Ana Navarro would do herself, which is basically just say, see, they passed this thing and all of these people are going to die. It's just not true. They're asking for 1992 Bill Clinton work requirements and checking in twice a year. I mean, I'm pretty sure almost anyone can do that.
Well, if you don't have anything to run on, you have to lie. And that's exactly what the Democrats are doing. So let's talk about Medicaid. Since 2019, Medicaid has expanded and increased 60%. It's not sustainable. Medicaid was never a program that was supposed to be a lifelong program for able-bodied people to work. What the Republicans are actually doing are trying to stabilize and sustain Medicaid for the people who need it most, the elderly, the disabled, right? If you're an able-bodied person, what we're asking for is work requirements, that you can work 20 hours a week if you're able-bodied, no dependents, able-bodied, be able to work. And work also can mean 20 hours of volunteering. I don't think the average American thinks that is too much to ask for. It makes sense. It's a winning issue. And I think people have actually a sense of pride. It gets more people off dependency, right? I tell my kids, don't be dependent on me. Don't be dependent on your spouse. And for goodness gracious sakes, don't be dependent on the government. The Democrats want to make you dependent. Republicans, we believe in people. We want you to work. We want you to feel good about what you're doing. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And that will be more people adding to the system, not taking away from the system. And Medicaid will be there for years to come for the people that actually need it. But the Democrats, all they want to do is scare the bejesus out of you. And it's just not true.
At the most simple level, if you're getting government benefits, the government asking you to check in twice a year just to see what you've been up to doesn't seem that's not really big government stepping on you. But Beth, I want to read this. I saw this from ex-user Sarge Diana, and has a chart attached to it. There were some interesting numbers here. 42% of illegal aliens get taxpayer-funded Medicaid. This is before, obviously, the bill. Immigrant-headed households get 37%. U.S.-born households get only 25%. And this study was done in 2023 by the Center for Immigration Studies, not even counting the millions of illegal aliens Biden let into the U.S. since then. So is that part of the problem here, that we still, I mean, lately the number that everyone's throwing around is 21 million, that somehow 21 million people came in 4 years. But is part of the problem that we just don't even know what the numbers are? So to even come up with math that makes sense is kind of amorphous in the first place?
Of course we don't know. I mean, especially those folks who are getaways. We can try to estimate. You've got a certain number that came over who claim that they want to have a better life. They came, and what do they get? They had welcome arms. They had basically people that picked them up in cabs, gave them food, gave them shelter, gave them healthcare, gave them free phones, gave them plane tickets and bus tickets anywhere in the country that they wanted, and may have given them a slip that said, hey, show up in court in 6 to 8 years. Right? So this was an incentive to get them to come, but it's the getaways that you really have to be concerned about. And we have no idea how many of those are. We've estimated 2-3 million, but those are people who are in our country illegally to in some extent still getting benefits, but we have no idea who they are. Are these people from China that intended to do us harm? Are they terrorist activities? Are they drug cartel members? Are they human and sex traffickers? Those are the folks that you really have to be concerned about. But getting back to the Medicaid, we have people who should never have been on that program. And exactly like Lisa said, we've expanded it so much that if you want it to be sustainable, you've got to get control over it again. And I think making it seem as if because you're not supposed to be on it, that we're somehow kicking you off, that's not what's going on. We are just verifying that the people who should get it are the ones who are having it. You're getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. People, Americans, recognize that. They get very frustrated when they see their taxpayer dollars going to people who should not be on that program or who should not be in our country. And I don't think that that's scaring anybody for us to be able to do that. But Democrats can't run on the truth, so they have to continue to lie about it. We're going to keep pushing to make sure that we get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, because quite honestly, that's a program that a very small subset of Americans need, and we want to make sure that it's there for them when they need it.
As I've gotten older, I've realized that staying healthy isn't just about living longer, it's about feeling good while you do it. And for me, nutrition plays a huge part in that. That's why I've started using Balance of Nature. It's an easy way to get the nutrients from 31 different fruits and vegetables without having to prep, cook, or clean. These are real, whole foods, gently dried to preserve their nutrients and packed into capsules. No fillers, no junk, just good, clean produce. They also haven't raised prices in 10 years, and they're keeping it that way. They also include a fiber and spice supplement that rounds it all out. It's a supplement designed to support energy, digestion, and overall wellness. Right now, you can make a fresh start to and receive 35% off your first order and a free bottle of fiber and spice when you become a preferred customer. Just head on over to balanceofnature.com and use code Rubin. Again, that's balanceofnature.com/Rubin. Yeah, so the real story of the week, of course, was the horrific tragedy in Texas, these flash floods. And, unfortunately, the first day that I covered it, I tried not to do any politics about it and just cover the story straight up. But, of course, everything becomes politicized. I want to show you this video. This is Anderson Cooper on CNN saying that FEMA's search and rescue was delayed because of some of the new processes that the administration has put in. So they just didn't have a signature, literally a signature from Kristi Noem to get funds and resources available. Take a look.
So according to 4 officials inside FEMA, that federal response may not have been as fast as it might have been. They say that a new rule that any expenditure over $100,000 needed sign-off from Secretary Noem slowed the federal response. These sources tell us that FEMA's deployment of urban search and rescue teams, which are typically deployed in anticipation they might be needed, instead was delayed until Monday, 3 days after the flood. Now, a source also tells us that a request Texas made for FEMA aerial imagery to aid in the search was also delayed, waiting for Secretary Noem's approval. Now, additionally, multiple FEMA officials say that they were taken aback by the agency's relatively limited response in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. CNN has reached out to FEMA for comment. So far, no reply from the agency. However, a DHS spokeswoman more generally told CNN that FEMA is, in her words, quote, shifting from bloated DC-centric dead weight to a lean deployable disaster force that empowers state actors to provide relief for their citizens.
Lisa, I take everything that Anderson Cooper and CNN says with a grain of salt. So he said a source many times. He didn't name the source. But can you speak to any of the legitimacy or lack of legitimacy to those claims? And do we know if Kristi Noem was not available to sign off on things or anything else?
I can share with you this. When that flood happened, and I'm sure Beth is probably even more in tune with this than I am because it's her state, but the minute we found out, 45 minutes, water rose 24 feet, I think it was. The response, was, I don't know how anyone could have responded a little bit faster. So to get those people out in the manner in which they got out, let's first thank the people that went there to help get these people and rescue these people. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. If you have to politicize something like this immediately, there's a barking dog there somewhere. At the end of the day, Kristi Noem was available. The president was available. Everyone was available. At the minute we found out, I believe we put all of our resources that we had into making sure that we can, one, take care of the people and get the rescue efforts going. Second is, I'm sure, as Beth will tell you, the president's coming down to Texas tomorrow to evaluate the damage. And something tells me that FEMA will probably do a much better job with the Texas floods than they did maybe with the California wildfires. So again, we don't have any specifics, and neither does Anderson Cooper. So, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. We got to politicize it to fearmonger against Donald Trump again.
Yeah, Beth, I mean, that was basically my take. He's going to say a source, a source, a source. The idea that somehow they couldn't get in touch with her to sign off on something, that just doesn't stand the sniff test to me. But is there anything that I know this is not your district specifically, but you are in Texas. Is there anything that you've wanted the federal government to do that they haven't done? Or is there any better coordination even within the state maybe that they could be doing?
Yes, get out of the way. That's what I want the federal government to do. Get out of the way and let me keep as much of my tax dollars as I possibly can. Texas will cover Texas. But I'll tell you, don't take our word for it. Listen to the governor of Texas. Listen to Governor Abbott and the things that he is saying about Kristi Noem and about Donald Trump. What he's saying is this president and this secretary have responded faster than any other administration ever to the storm. That as soon as this storm happened and he contacted, the administration, they were here to do everything they could. So the fact that they're trying to point blame again is they're blinded by hatred. But Kristi Noem is down here. You have President Trump who's like, look, I don't want to be down there. I don't want to get in the way. A lot of the resources are going to be spent with me that needs to be spent looking for survivors of this, helping with the survivors of this, trying to get these communities back. So he's going to be down here on tomorrow. I'm going to be joining him for support. But the fact is, I worked for this administration. I worked for the Trump administration during his first time in office when Hurricane Harvey happened and we were down in Houston. And I saw firsthand this president come down. I saw his secretaries take all this seriously. But the fact is that exactly what Lisa was saying, it was 26 feet in 45 minutes. There's a lot that we could do. They were overstaffed at the National Weather Service. Are there things that they can do? Yeah. Governor Abbott is going to be having a special session and they're going to talk about, is there technology that we could have in place? Let's use this as a learning moment moving forward to see what we could do in the future. But what kind of ghouls are sitting here salivating over, little girls who have died to try to make cheap political points? There's a special place in hell for those people. And I am very supportive of what this administration is doing. We're trying to do everything that we can to support. We were all in contact with Chip Roy's office saying, what do we need to do? I know Brian Babin was doing the same thing. This is a time for support. For those people who just want to cause additional hate, they can get out of the way and let the rest of us who are trying to get our jobs done, get it done.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. In some sense, I don't want to cover the way it's being politicized. And then in another sense, you kind of have to respond to it. Otherwise, people get confused by it. So let me just show you one other clip. This is Dana Bash on CNN saying that basically Republicans can't politicize this because it's happening in a red state.
Senator Cruz did say that He believes in the National Weather Service. He believes in FEMA. And so I would not be surprised if those sentiments gain traction in a different way now that they have seen this happen, sadly, generally, but also that it's happened not in a blue state, but in a red state that is harder for Republicans to politicize.
You know, I get to see both of your faces while the clips are playing, and it's just like that last line right there, as if this is somehow, it's just so thin what they're doing there. Lisa, I know we go through this with everything, but yeah.
It's so disheartening. And like Beth said, it's like, really, you're going to politicize this? At the end of the day, the Democrats have nothing. And you heard Dana, she didn't quote sources. It's her opinion. It's what she believes. It's, okay, last I checked, does anybody even watch CNN anymore? I mean, really?
just for those clips.
I mean, yeah, that's good. That's good fodder. But that's the whole point. That's why nobody does. Used to be the news actually reported the facts, and you had at the end of the segment the little opinion segment that said, hey, here's my opinion. Now all you see is everybody's opinion. Why don't we cover the facts? Nobody wants to do that on the other side of the aisle, and that's why you're getting what you're getting. When you have no plan, no vision, and no leader, all you get is hatred and rhetoric, and it's sad.
Can we talk a little bit about the whistleblowers, though? The unnamed sources?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
an unnamed source on Capitol Hill. It's the janitor over there. They're blaming an awful lot on that guy.
It is incredible. While look, as a political, I was a part of the administration, right? So you're in an appointed position. Can I just tell you that the folks who are working for the federal government, they are there. When we talk about that swamp that needs to be cleared, it is true. You've got people who hate this administration, who hate the fact that they're going to be holding these agencies accountable, that all of these folks who have been able to live in kind of like the crevices and in caves without their names coming out, who can say the most hateful rhetoric to cause as much damage as possible, but are never actually held accountable. It's true. My first day in the office when I worked for HUD, I had a meeting and I had all of our managers and directors. And the first day I went around the table and I said, how long have you been here? How long? How long do you think the person who'd been there the least amount of time had been there? Just guess.
The least amount?
Amount of time.
You're leading the question, so give me 20 years. What?
17.
Yeah.
How long do you think the person who'd been there the longest had been there?
You probably had a guy who's 94 who'd been there 70 years? What?
52.
Yeah.
52 years.
Yeah.
These people know how to protect their own. They've seen the political appointees come and go. What they're going to do is they're going to continue to work just to protect their little fiefdom. They are probably the most dangerous area in government right now. When you've got an administration who's going, exposing them, trying to clean out this deep state and holding them accountable for those dollars that are being spent, those Doge efforts, they are scared. But the fact is that you can't just do it in a couple of years. I'm looking long term. We've had Donald Trump in office for another 3.5 years, God hoping. But then what? We need to hold on to this for at least another 12 years to be able to really clean house. Because it's one thing that I learned during my 2.5 years in the belly of the beast is that the deep state protects its own, and we have got to hold them accountable, and we've got to get down to it.
We've all been told wrinkle creams are the secret to looking younger, but according to Beverly Hills beauty expert Dr. John Lake, that's outdated advice. Most products are just overpriced moisturizers that barely work and may even harm your skin. Dr. Lake has shifted his focus to a breakthrough anti-aging method that some call Photoshop for the face. His simple at-home technique, nicknamed the Age Rewinder Method, can visibly erase wrinkles in under 2 minutes. To help people everywhere, he's released a free step-by-step video revealing exactly how it works. Millions have already watched, and the feedback has been incredible, with thousands saying they look years younger. One user raved, "Best results I've ever seen. I'll never stop using this." Watch the free video at bhmd1.com/Rubin or click the link in the description below. Dr. Lake asks one thing: if it helps you feel younger and more confident, please share it with friends and family so more people can experience the results. Watch the video at bhmd1.com/Rubin. Well, you're giving me the easiest segue of all time, because here is Donald Trump on some of those deep state type people like James Comey and John Brennan.
President Trump, James Comey and John Brennan, now under criminal investigation related to the Trump-Russia probe. Do you want to see these two guys behind bars?
Well, I know nothing about it other than what I read today, but I will tell you, I think they're very dishonest people. I think they're crooked as hell, and maybe they have to pay a price for that. I believe they are truly bad people and dishonest people, so whatever happens, happens.
Lisa, I always say on the show, as a general rule, I don't love the idea of an incoming administration going after people from a previous administration, because it seems like that starts a crazy cycle that will never end, and then no good people will ever want to be in government. However, it seems to me that there's got to be someone has to pay the price for something. So if you took Russia, if you took Biden's incompetence and the conspiracy around that, or you took COVID, if you just took those three things, somebody has to pay a price for something at some point. Is that fair to say?
That is 100% fair to say. And I'm going to give you an analogy. I come from the financial services industry, and we have this thing called Sarbanes-Oxley, right? I don't remember, if you remember that. And we also had the Dodd-Frank, where it talked about, like my company of financial planning, when I did my books, I had to have somebody signed their name that was personally responsible, that if somebody cooked the books or there was something that was wrong, there was a person that was held accountable. We couldn't say it was society, it was this entity, it was this administration, it was this. No, there was a person. That's the problem with government. If we could just use the exact same measurements that we use for business, if we would use those measurements for government, I think you'd see a lot of things different. But that's the problem. Who do you hold accountable? What are their consequences? I mean, look what Biden did. He pardoned everybody and their brother for crimes that they may have done, that he doesn't even know that may have done. This is a really slippery slope. And why do you do that? Because you know you were doing shady deals. And you know you tried everything. You threw everything at Donald Trump, everything but the kitchen sink, to make sure that he didn't get elected. Whether it was false allegations, you used the media, you name it, tried to imprison him, you name it, to get this guy not to become president of the United States. Why? Why did you have to use all of these nefarious acts to get that done? What are you hiding? What are you afraid of? But it's not going to change until we hold someone accountable. There's got to be a consequence to the action. And I'm with you. I don't like, it sounds like a third world country where when we're done, we throw the other party in jail. But at the end of the day, these are criminal acts, whether it's the DOJ or whomever it is. And these are leaders at the top that knowingly did nefarious acts, that knowingly pushed lies onto the American people. I mean, that's the worst of the worst. And they got to be held accountable.
This time you gave me the perfect segue, because here's John Brennan in his own words, still telling us now that there was no Russia hoax.
Clear that Mr. Ratcliffe decided that he was going to initiate this, I think, again, to try to satisfy the interest, the urge of Donald Trump, who continues to claim that the assessment of Russian interference in the 2016 election was a hoax. It was not. I really am very worried that what we're seeing now in this chapter of American history is a sad deterioration of, I think, the respect for the rule of law and for our system of government. And if a president of the United States is willing to weaponize intelligence and justice and, law enforcement investigators, and the people who head up these departments and agencies are willing to bow to it, we really are in deep, deep trouble, which was why I think so many people are worried about the direction this country is taking.
Beth, I'm pretty sure that's what we call confession through projection. Isn't he guilty of everything he's accusing Donald Trump right there? Like, get a mirror.
I was going to say, I agree with a lot of what he said, but the problem is he's aiming his hate at the wrong person. This was a group that defended an auto pen as president. Right? Like, they were trying to tell us all sorts of things that Biden's never been, at the top of his game. He's at the top of his game right now. Like, these are the same people who tried to explain that. That was probably the largest cover up in American history. You can look and they're still trying to defend it. Now you got people who are going to be taking the fifth because they don't want to actually have to answer the questions to Congress that they're asking now. But you look at Brennan, and I would ask anybody to go back and see the brilliant cross-ex that Trey Gowdy did of Brennan when he got him totally caught in that lie. And he knows that it's a lie, and he can sit here and claim that this is the worst thing. It is bad. When you have got people who have been in these positions of power behind the scenes for decades and decades that have been protecting one political party, the people that put them in those positions of power, who are protecting them over and over again and are willing to go to every extent to lie to the American public, not do their job, ignore the law, just to protect them, we do have a problem. And this is what we're finally getting down to. And again, they're going to fight us every step of the way. And this is why you've got folks like James Comey, James Comer, who's really trying to use it. You've got Jim Jordan, who's really trying to get down to the bottom of this. These are questions that we're going to continue to answer. But again, they're going to try to stall as long as they possibly can. They're going to use as many district courts that were appointed by Democrats, by Democrat presidents, as long as they can to be able to hope that in 3.5 years, you're going to have a Democrat president and all of these things are going to go away, which is, again, why we need to look at long term to make sure that we have control to be able to continue to fight this deep state. It's ridiculous. It's dangerous. And it will be the end of our country.
You're spot on, Beth. And I think that's why you saw in the last election, the Democrats tried everything in their power, both legal and illegal, to try and not get Donald Trump elected. They are afraid of something. And I would ask you, what are they afraid of? I think they're afraid of Donald Trump is pulling the curtain back. And they don't want the American people to see what has been going on for, like you said, Beth, and you worked there for decades. They are scared to death because their 10-year or 52 years, so to speak, is going to come to a crashing halt. And that's why they're so desperate right now. And they, desperate people do desperate things. So
free speech is under attack, but Rumble refuses to back down. We've always believed in empowering voices, no matter how unpopular, and now we're taking that fight to the next level. When major advertisers conspired to pull their dollars, even brands like Dunkin' Donuts turned their backs. But we're not here to fit a mold. We're here to defend free expression. To strengthen this mission, we're excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits for viewers and creators. You'll find exclusive content from creators like Russell Brand, Dr. Disrespect, Timcast, and the Mug Club with Crowder. It's more than a subscription. It's a stand for free speech. Your voice matters. Join Rumble Premium. For a limited time, you can get $10 off the annual plan using promo code Rubin. Visit rumble.com/premium/Rubin and claim your discount today. Whether you join Rumble Premium or simply keep watching, your support helps keep free speech alive. I want to end with one other story that's going, I think, wildly unreported because I think it's deeply important. The amount of farmland and land in general that China has been buying up in America for the last decade, at least. Here's Brooke Rollins talking about the new sheriff in town as it pertains to the Chinese buying land in the United States.
The first of the 7 is securing and protecting American farmland ownership, actively engaging at every level of government to take swift legislative and executive action to ban the purchase of American farmland by Chinese nationals and other foreign adversaries. Standing on the shoulders of great governors, 3 of whom are standing behind me, who have already been leading the way on this issue. And at the federal government level, working to do everything within our ability, including presidential authorities, to claw back what has already been purchased by China and other foreign adversaries.
Ladies, we'll throw up a map right now where you can see Chinese-owned farmland, and much of it is extremely close proximity to American military bases, as you can see. We did do a little Googling before the show. American citizens are not allowed to buy farmland in China, so this seems fair to me. Beth, are we finally becoming a serious country again?
No, we absolutely are. And I want to give kudos to the Texas state legislature because they've actually passed laws that are forbidding this from occurring. I would hope that other governors would take this seriously. But it's not just the farmlands that we need to be concerned about. And the farmlands, obviously, you look at food security as national security. Mm-hmm. But we also have to look at some of our energy plants. Is it our airports? Where do we have critical infrastructure? When you look at the damage that has been done from Ukraine to Russia with drones, and think about how much damage could be done on all of our infrastructure by having land that's owned by people who want to commit these crimes. And again, this has come full circle to where we started. How many millions of people are in this country illegally that we don't know about that want to do harm, that are potential terrorists? It's not if it's going to happen, it's when. And preventing, folks that we know want to do damage to us, China, from purchasing our lands, our farmlands, we have to expand that out. I think it is a common sense approach. And as you stated, try being an American and buying land in China. You can't do it. So this is very supportive. I applaud Brooke Rollins for taking that step.
Lisa, I suspect you'll agree with that.
I do. The only thing I wish I lived in Texas. Unfortunately, I live in Michigan with our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who is the exact opposite. I mean, she is trying to become New York and California. China's not our friend. They're not our friend educationally, militarily, or economically. It is not a coincidence of where they're buying the land. They're not buying land in the middle of nowhere. So one, they shouldn't buy the land, period. We should not allow our adversaries to purchase our land. If we can't purchase it there, they shouldn't be able to purchase us here. Let's just level the playing field, number one. Number two, so it doesn't make, why we would let our adversaries buy farmland right next to our military bases. Are you kidding me? I'm not much for coincidences, number one. But number two, like you talked about, Beth, food security is national security. What is going on? And why is this so controversial? Why would you entice? I look at the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, of my state. Why would you give tax breaks to the CCP, to give them farmland next to our military? Makes you scratch your head. You said this earlier, Beth. Follow the money. I wonder what that money's doing. Just interesting to me. So I agree wholeheartedly. Let's keep our farmland American where we can control it.
Well, I'm going to throw out an invitation to both of you guys. If you want to come down to Texas, come on. I invite you. Love to have you down. David, bring some of your reposado. We'll invite Byron Donald to come join us.
Now you're
talking. Have a good conversation all in the same room.
Absolutely. I will definitely make that happen. And ladies, well, what do two happening congresswomen do in a July weekend? What are you guys up to this weekend? I can't end on politics. Give me something fun. Lisa, what do you got this weekend?
I'm going up to Mackinac Island for an event that I host every year. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll do some policy, we'll do some politics, and we'll probably have a little fun. I think we're going to do some karaoke on Saturday night. So if my career in politics doesn't work out, I'm going to go and be in a band. That's my goal.
And if you've ever heard Lisa sing, she's awesome at karaoke, and I hate that I'm missing that. But I'm going to head down to Kirk County. I'm heading down to Kirk County tomorrow. I'm going to be there with the president and some of other representatives and meeting with our state legislators and our first responders and seeing what we can do to help that community to rebuild.
Great. And we're gonna link below to what was the site that I donated to? We're gonna put the link below. Oh, it was to the Texas County's Kerr County Flood Relief Fund. The link is in the description. Ladies, I thank you for your time. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.